Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. President Cyril Ramaphosa is on a public relations tour, and that public relations tour has now been overshadowed again by the Phala Phala scandal. The Phala Phala scandal is always around the corner because it's an unresolved issue. So, over the last few days, the president has been making a lot of late night visits, surprise visits to a variety of places. And I think it's part of his trying to recapture that magic, the Ramaphoria magic, the New Dawn magic, the Tumamina magic. You remember how it was at the beginning when you would do walks in Cape Town on the promenade and there would be some joy, there would be some excitement, there was a lot of hope at the beginning. So I think he's trying to recapture that. He went to one of the university campuses where students have been excluded or students are facing challenges accessing residence. The students don't have money and they're not able to find somewhere to live. So he went there to commiserate with them, to show empathy, to show understanding. That was one of the moves that happened late at night. Then he also went to the Gauteng CBD with the police. It was part of a sting operation. He was there at night with the police, and that also was, I think, an effort to show that he is trying to be on the ground. He's trying to actually engage with some of the challenges and issues that people are facing, that is not trying to be aloof. He's trying to be somebody who is experiential in understanding of the challenges that people are facing. So that was what happened also with this Gauteng CBD trip. Most of these moments, as I've said, they've been late at night, but he's also addressed the Gauteng legislature. And this is what he had to say. Was it Gauteng legislature? One of the legislatures, whether it was Joburg or the Gauteng one, this is what he had to say about the state of Johannesburg. Hear his words.
One or two meetings of the G20 that I attended here was not very pleasing. The environment that one observed was not a pleasing environment. I say this so that we can improve immensely. As South Africans, we are proud people, and let us get that pride that we have, self-pride, lift us up so that we do present a G20 that will wow people, so that when people look at what we offer and present, they must just say, wow, this is how South Africans do it.
It's good to hear a president concerned about the situation on the ground. However, I'm a bit worried that he seemed to be more concerned about the issue of pride and perception than experience and lived reality. My concern is that he came across as more worried about how it looked because of the G20 and the international guests and all of the international scrutiny, not that people have to live in those conditions every day. I could be wrong, but how did that particular segment come across to you? Because people have to live under those conditions every day. Roads have potholes. Traffic lights are not working. There are high levels of crime in various parts of the city of Johannesburg. Deeper than that, the state of the schools in the townships is not adequate in many of those particular townships. The world is preparing for artificial general intelligence, and the schools in the townships are not teaching for the future which we are now living in. This is not some hypothetical thing anymore. This is not some episodes of the Jetsons from the 1950 or whatever the case may be. We are living here. This is not back to the future. 2025 is the future. You can pull out a phone and talk to somebody in China. You can pull out a phone and ask artificial intelligence to do a research essay for you. This is happening now. Yes, people have to pay many times to get that level of information and quality of information, but these are the realities. Companies are designing robots. Right now, humanoid robots are being built as we speak. Biomechanics is becoming a more important part of engineering. And still, the schools are not in good shape. The clinics are not in the shape that they need to be, which causes an overflow into the hospitals and a crisis in those particular hospitals. So I hope that it's not just about G20 and that, their visitors. It has to be more than that. It has to be that nobody should actually fail to receive quality of service whether it's healthcare, policing, education, transportation, whatever the case may be. Why do these interventions matter? Why is the president, trying to recapture some of those 2018, 2017 moments? I think it's because of the election in 2026, the local government elections. The local government election is a tough election, and the ANC has already done badly in local government elections. They've done badly. And Gauteng has the highest concentration of voters in South Africa, close to 25%. So if people are not happy with the conditions in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Ekurhuleni, that will translate. If they're unhappy in those metros, that will translate to a poor performance in the local government elections for 2026, but also in the national elections for 2029. I think the president wants to be on the ground to try to use his brand to help the party be able to withstand the public sentiment, which is shifting against the party. The polling that just came out said that the ANC is now at 30%. I doubt some of that polling for reasons I've said before, but also apparently that poll also says without President Ramaphosa, the ANC hits 20%. And if you think that the ANC is now going to a conference in 2027, the best thing that he can try to do right now, while he still has some room to maneuver, is to strengthen the position of the party. This is why I think he is taking these actions. So while he's been on this tour, because this video is actually about the issue of the Phala Phala matter, while he's been on this tour, it has now been widely reported that the IPID investigation into Phala Phala has been sealed. Sealed. Valile. A question was asked by the leader of the ATM party, African Transformation Movement, in Parliament to the Minister of Police, and his name is Mr. Vuyo Zungula. And the question was as follows. Here's the question from Mr. Zungula. By what date does the Independent Police Investigative Directorate intend to release the finalized report on the handling of the investigation surrounding the breaking in and theft from the president, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm, considering the lodgement of a formal complaint with IPID as early as in 2022, and noting that despite the gravity of the specified matter and repeated follow-ups, the finalized report has not yet been released. Details furnished. This was the response from the Ministry of Police and the Minister of Police. The Independent Police Investigative Directorate has completed its investigation, and the recommendation report was referred to the South African Police Service on the 3rd of October 2023 for implementation. The Independent Police Investigative Directorate received the outcome from the South African Police Service and was satisfied with the response. The investigation report has been classified top secret. In terms of paragraph 3.44 of the Minimum Information Security Standards, and as such, until it is accordingly declassified, it would not be released for public consumption. Consumption, like it's not public information, it's public consumption. You want to chow this like it's Nando's. You can't consume this information. Anyway, Clement Manyathela had an interview with the spokesperson for the police, and this was the exchange. This is what was said. Tell me what you think in the comments about everything you are about to hear, because it's quite jarring. Her attitude, the response, the karate that she's using to block any form of scrutiny, accountability. Anyway, here's how it went, this interview. Clement Manyathela was asking the right questions, and I want to give him props for trying to really be one of the media voices looking into this thing and probing the lack of accurate answers. Here's what happened.
To the public, be made available to Parliament that's supposed to hold you accountable. Let's start with Lizzie Suping, who is the spokesperson for IPID, joining us now on the line. Lizzie, thank you so much for that South Africans care about. So why must a report like that then not be made available to the public, be made available to Parliament that's supposed to hold you accountable? Let's start with Lizzie Suping, who is the spokesperson for IPID, joining us now on the line. Lizzie, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Senate.
Yeah, is
And
this?
good morning to the listeners.
Thank you for your time. Is this report classified? This IPID report on Phala Phala?
Yes, it is classified. And the reason for us okay, let me just put into context first that as IPID, we're investigating the conduct of the police officers who allegedly failing to report an alleged crime that happened at the farm. And then in terms of our work, we did the investigation, and the report is classified because we are trying to protect the information of witnesses, because there is a parallel criminal case that is being done by another stakeholder, which is the DPCI. And that is the reason why we have classified the report.
But the NPA has already decided that it's not going to prosecute.
We were not dealing with the criminal element, but remember, for as long as there's a parallel process that has to happen in court, we cannot declassify the report. We need to continue to protect those witnesses that we had interviewed during the process, but also to protect our information so that it does not prejudice the other processes.
Okay, I hear that, Lizzie. What's confusing me, though, is the NPA announced late last year that the Hawks have sent them, right, all of their investigations that have been concluded, and the NPA has decided that no one is going to be prosecuted. Are you suggesting to us that the Hawks is still investigating?
From our side, I would say that we have done our investigation. We made recommendations to staff to institute disciplinary processes. But because of other processes, we cannot declassify. Remember, there were 3 dates in terms of this process, and we are all sharing the same time frame. So everybody has their own investigation based on their own mandate. And that is the reason that was taken by IPID to classify the report. But at a later stage, we will relook into the matter and consider declassifying it. But for now, it remains classified.
So what's confusing me is that you're saying you decided to classify it because there was investigations by the Hawks. And I'm putting it to you that my understanding is that those investigations are complete. And I've asked the producers now to call the Hawks to confirm that if the Hawks are still investigating anything on Phala Phala. That's not my understanding. So if the basis of classifying a report is that, well, the Hawks are investigating, but the Hawks have already sent their completed investigation report to the NPA, and the NPA has decided we are not prosecuting anyone, then there's no reason for you then to have that report still classified if the very basis of your classification was that the Hawks are investigating.
Yes, we had classified, but at a later stage, because there are processes that we also need to follow from our side when we make a decision to declassify. But like I said, for now, it remains classified until such time that we are satisfied with our own processes as well internally, and we can make that declassification.
What processes are those?
No, it's our internal processes from IPID. It has nothing to do with the Hawks. It has nothing to do with the public.
So help us understand those processes. What are they?
I'm not at liberty to share the processes, but at the time when we are ready, we will declassify the report.
So I'm not asking you to reveal any secrets about your processes. I'm just asking, like, you can just say to me that, okay, the report still needs to be read by the IPID lead investigator, or the report still needs to undergo this. That's not a secret I'm asking for that somehow compromises that report. I'm just trying to figure out what are the processes internally that are somehow going to trigger then your decision to declassify this. That's what South Africans want to know.
No, the report is concluded. The decision was done by IPID after the investigation was concluded to classify the report. And like I'm saying, we have our own processes that I'm not at liberty to share at the moment. But once we are ready to declassify, we will let South Africa know that we are ready to declassify, and we'll share with South Africa the reasons why we are declassifying the report. But at the moment, the report remains classified.
Did your report look into the role of Mr. Ruode, the head of the security for the president? Because the public protector had found him guilty of improper conduct for his handling of the theft. What did you find?
Mr. Ruode is one of the police officers obviously implicated. And like I say, we will not be able to share the report. It is classified. We will not be able to share the content of what is contained in the report. It is classified. Until such time that is declassified, it can then be shared with the public. The outcome will be shared with the public. But currently, it's not possible to share the contents of the report.
Is that how you deal with all your reports? When you investigate matters, you just classify them?
No, we don't just classify. We look at the sensitivity of the issues. This report was classified at a time after we had concluded our report, and we looked at the sensitivity and nature of the report. There are officers implicated, and I will not be able to, like I say, engage for now with the public about the contents of the report. But at a time, once we've made a decision to declassify, will then be able to share with the public.
Interesting. Lizzie, thank you so much for making time for us. Lizzie Suping is the spokesperson for IPID.
Let's be completely honest. If this scandal pertained to Jacob Zuma, if Jacob Zuma at Nkandla Farm had put millions of US dollars into his sofa and his maid told the brother, and the brother came into Nkandla, stole that money from the Nkandla Farm, and then SARS said, we don't know where the money is or where the money came from, and the Reserve Bank said that, the transaction was not perfected. If it was all Jacob Zuma, the man from Nkandla, if it was him, let's be honest, what would have happened? This is what would have happened. The report would have leaked by now. The whistleblower would be protected by now. We would be hearing about the importance of protecting whistleblowers from Daily Maverick, from News 24. We would have a documentary from Al Jazeera about the missing millions from Nkandla. We would. There would be books by Polly van Wyk, Peter Myberg. All of these guys would have written books. Business Live would have a special column just on the financial irregularities that have been committed as a result of foreign currency being stored in a sofa, foreign currency not being deposited in the bank, all of the foreign currency regulations which currently exist. There would be explainers, there would be podcasts, there would be podcast series on all of this. And all of these reports that are sealed would be in the public domain. And we know because the Gupta stuff was hacked, it was leaked, it was shared with the public. And we were told it's okay because the public has a right to know. Right to know campaign. You remember those kind of things? Defend democracy. Right to know. All of those types of things. Let's be very clear. Whether it's Jacob Zuma or Cyril Ramaphosa or Julius Malema or Musi Maimane, whoever the president is, it's actually inconsequential, right? All I'm pointing out is that the media wouldn't have treated this with the kind of kid gloves that they have if the name was Zuma, because there was an understanding that no, Zuma, something must be done. We must tell the people, make it plain. But that standard has not always been maintained with everybody else because the media has favorites. The billionaires and the people who are scared of some political parties over others feel that certain individuals deserve more soft treatment than others. But let's be clear on principle. In a democracy, it is important to have transparency and accountability. It's not me saying that. It's the Constitution of South Africa that says that. It's important for elected officials to explain to the public how they use money and how they use power. Why is it important for them to explain? Why is it important for them to account? It's important for them to do so because they are not kings. Even though they are billionaires, even though they held the book for Mandela while he was reading his speech, even though they wear particular t-shirts, they run marathons, or they cook biryani a particular way, inconsequential. Whether they speak with the greatest eloquence that the Queen would be impressed with the impeccable diction and the vocabulary and the profuse, elocution. That's immaterial. That is immaterial. It's important for them to do so because they are not kings. Those who govern in a democracy do so with the consent of the majority. They use a borrowed power. They use that power not for themselves, but to represent the interests of the public and to implement the agenda which the public elected them to implement, which is why they present manifestos, they go to debates, they put up posters. They are not there to do as they please. It is not a kingdom. It is not a fiefdom. It is not a dala what you must dom. It is a democracy. And in a democracy, those in power must maintain transparency and accountability. That's important. There's therefore a worrying trend when everything gets sealed, when everything gets hidden, when everything gets obfuscated consistently, when the media looks away, when particular individuals do something and they look with glee to luma hang when others do other things. It's an inconsistency. There's a worrying trend specifically when it comes to Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. That trend is that of secrecy. When the issue of campaign donors came up, who donated to the CR17 campaign. Mr. Ramaphosa rushed to the courts to attempt to seal the documents. He was successful. When the Reserve Bank investigated the Phala Phala matter themselves, they wanted to seal the report. Only after there was public outcry was the report released. That report that said the transaction was not perfected because Mustafa didn't come to collect the buffaloes or the ankoles. When the issue went to Parliament, after the Section 89 panel determined, a panel led by a retired Constitutional Court judge, it determined there was a prima facie case for Parliament to look into. Fikile Mbalula and others, because he was chief whip at the time, I think, they blocked Parliament from getting to the bottom of the issue. And they said, no, Mr. Ramaphosa is still going to go to court, blah, blah, blah. And they blocked that particular vote by getting the members of the ANC, most of whom voted against moving to an impeachment committee to look into this matter fully. That's another form of sealing. Right now, there's an issue with the NHI, and the president is saying that he's not obliged to share some documents with the Democratic Alliance. When the cadre deployment issue arose, there was an attempt by the Democratic Alliance to get documents from the ANC to get clarity on cadre deployment. The ANC didn't want to give them those documents. They had to go to court over and over again before they actually agreed that they have to hand over the documents. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa sometimes comes across as Mr. Silit Ramaphosa. Let me repeat that. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa sometimes comes across as Mr. Seal It Ramaphosa. And that is not good for democracy, to rush to conceal, to rush to hide. Even now, if you want to find out who are the other people who are in the Tivashe Trust, the one which has a lot of business interests, some of which you won't be able to get to the bottom of, you can't. Because they'll say, no, you can't declare everything because there are other individuals, they're private individuals who cannot find out. It damages transparency and accountability. And it's important to state that the Phala Phala matter itself requires clarification to the public. The public should satisfy themselves that the leader of the nation, who is negotiating with America, Iran, China, has not been participating in activity which would compromise him and compromise the country. That applies to Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, anybody in a democracy. The public has to know, bruh, is everything legit? Are the books legit? Is everything okay? There at home base. Think about this story. A man, Hazim Mustafa. By the way, that lady who found him in Dubai, now she doesn't find him anymore. Huh? She went to DRC. She was there talking to M23. She's been everywhere, that lady. She's been covering xenophobic protests, etc., etc. She was in Dubai with Mustafa. Now she can't find Mustafa. I'm like, you Sky News journalist, why are you not able to find Mustafa anymore? Did you lose the number or what? But you know the address. He drove you to his house. Anyway, this man is said to have come to South Africa on Christmas Day, like Father Christmas. Father Hazim Mustafa. Hey, not Mufasa, not Aaron Pierre. That's Mufasa. Hazim Mustafa. That's Mufasa. Hey, for Ramaphosa. Anyway, he came on Christmas Day to buy cows with a bag of cash, which is what the Section 89 panel said. This is unbelievable. Look into this. He came with this cash, US dollars. He left the money, did not collect the cows. When the DA asked SARS if the money was declared, SARS said, no, the money was not declared. But he was saying on Sky News that the money was declared, showing the journalist that the money was declared. That journalist was never going to speak to him again. That money, the US dollars, was put into a sofa. Then it was stolen by the Namibian maid's brother. Operation Tutula. You're not going to ask Phala Phala questions there. Kayton McKenzie, Abahambe, you're not going to ask questions to say, why is the head of state using a Namibian maid on the Phala Phala farm? It's not a critical skill. You see how the asking of questions is quite selective, huh? It's quite... if you look too close, you'll see too much. The crime was never reported. It was only admitted to that the money was stolen when it was reported by Arthur Fraser to the police. The president's security went to Namibia to look for the money. It's a movie. No no jurisdiction, but they were doing international money recovery missions for an unreported police case. The public has a right to ask questions about this kind of a matter. Whether you think the man is innocent or not, it's a misunderstanding, it's other people's money, it's not, taxpayers' money, we shouldn't worry ourselves. By the way, you have no idea what that money is for until the story has been fully clarified. It could be innocent money, or there could be some reasons why that money was given. Where's that money from, really? What was it for, really? You need to know. But yet again, we're in a situation where you will never know. It has been sealed again. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa looks more and more like Mr. Seal It Ramaphosa. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let's have a conversation. That's where I want to leave that topic, but I want to talk a little bit about the book club. The book club is live, and it's known as the Dissection Book Lab. So there's a scripture that I love, and that scripture is, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." It's a quote from the Bible, from the book of Hosea 4, verse 6. Implied in that scripture is a crisis, a people who are perishing. But also implied in that scripture is an answer to the problem. If we get knowledge and wisdom, we as Africans can prosper. The reality right now is that poverty has gone up in Africa, while it's gone down in the rest of the world. Africa is still behind. The reality is that we're dealing with problems in Africa that would have been long gone if we had ethical and visionary leadership on the continent. Instead, we got scoundrels, rascals, lazy people, thugs. That's what we got. We're talking about water, electricity, lack of medicine. We're talking about bridges and roads that still need to be built in 2025. We're talking about that. We're talking about desks not being present in schools. We're talking about we need international aid. We need the bowl from the rich countries. Please help us. In 2025, Ghana got independence in 57. Nigeria got independence in 1960. We are still talking about the same things. Zimbabwe, 1980. It's been so long. And we're still talking about the same things. So there's no question that Africa is perishing. The contradiction is that Africa is a rich continent. Africa has talented people with lots of potential. The goal of the book club, the Dissection Book Lab, is that with this book lab, we can dive into these books and extract wealth and strategies and tactics from these books and understanding. Obviously, reading is not enough. Obviously, reading is only the beginning of the project of the restoration of Africa. But without knowledge, without information, without wisdom, we are back at zero. We can't keep talking about who must do this in the house and who Mjolo things, Mjolo related things all of the time. We need to be talking about why is the African Continental Free Trade Area not working? We need to be talking about why, when we see all of these developments with cryptocurrencies, have these African leaders not developed something which is a stable coin that the continent can use for trade? These are the things that we need to be talking about. Right now, our information ecosystem is dominated by non-governmental organizations and think tanks that control the thoughts in Africa. Think about it. There are many non-governmental organizations, NGOs in Africa shifting the way we think. Look at AfriForum. Look at Brentes Foundation. Look at the Free Market Foundation, to mention a few. Billionaires and powerful interests own and control media houses in South Africa. So they get to influence the value of the currency. They get to influence which leaders go into coalition and which leaders don't. That's the kind of power they possess. They get to manufacture consent while we go about being manipulated like sheep. We have to break that. We're not sheep. We are lions on this continent. But we have to have our own knowledge economy. We have to have our own knowledge ecosystem. We have to look at the current affairs and try to understand what these moments mean for us. So this is what the Book Lab is going to try to achieve. We can use platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, TikTok to create a virtual think tank. We can start, and we must start with the mental and work towards the elemental. It's mental before it's elemental. That means minds have to conceive it before hands can realize it. We cannot build what we cannot see. So we need to see clearly. There's that song, Nizilibeluba nizalwa ngoban. Nizilibeluba nizalwa ngobani bo. Which is to say, you've forgotten whose children you are. People will speak about Africa built pyramids, Africa had universities in Timbuktu, blah, 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 blah. Hey, why were the nose cut off? Why is the Sphinx this? Why that? Why this? Munumutapa, this and this and this and this. I'm tired of those conversations. We need new pyramids. And the way that we get to those pyramids, the new ones, we have to construct things that someone else is going to be proud of 100 years from now. Not looking at African leaders trying to explain Robert Mugabe, Idi Amin, Yoweri Museveni, all of these gebengas. We need more than that. So let's create a knowledge economy. That's what the book club is trying to achieve. We'll be doing in-depth dissections of books from business, from politics, from current affairs to think about this African moment and how we can respond to the challenges that Africa is facing. If you're on a laptop, if you want to join the book lab, and I've been speaking about this for a while, I'm excited that we're finally getting to do it. You know, after 50,000 subscribers, I was like, yes, the right time. I was waiting for the 50K. We're on 50K now. Doesn't matter what they say out there. We are on 50K. We're moving. We're cruising. So thank you to everybody who's subscribed. Thank you to everybody who's watching the content, who knows the reality of the quality of work that we're doing at the dissection. If you want to join the book lab, if you want to support the project going further, 200,000 and who knows where else, where we can really begin to influence African discourse. Right now, we're tickling this thing. We're tickling it. We need to grab it, but we're tickling it right now. Tickling it. So if you want to join the book club, please subscribe to the book club. So the way it works, if you're on a laptop, you go to Mighty Jamie's YouTube page, Mighty Jamie TV, right? And then you click subscribe if you haven't yet, and then you click join. Easy. Then you're in there, right? If you're on an iPhone, because Apple and Google don't always get along, they've been fighting about the App Store and all of this, the join button is not visible on the iPhone. You have to log on via the browser, whether it's Chrome or Safari, whatever browser you use. Then you log on to your YouTube. Then you request the desktop site. Then when you're on that YouTube, now you'll be looking at the YouTube like it looks like on the laptop. Go to Mighty Jamie TV. You'll be able to see that subscribe and join button the same way that it looks like on the laptop. Then you can join the book lab. We're going to be doing exciting things. So it's live now. Let's go. Let's get going. Let's continue the work of, breaking the chains of ignorance in Africa. Bob Marley says, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. That's what we need to do. These politicians are not going to do it. We need to do it. Let's get to it. Till the next one, peace.